In the meantime, though, State Department transcript is raising eyebrows. We'll tell you more about it in a minute. Secretary Kerry suggesting this morning in a speech at the French embassy, saying, quote, "There's something different about what happened from Charlie Hebdo, and I think everybody would feel that." There was a sort of particularized focus and perhaps even a legitimacy in terms, not of a legitimacy, but a rationale that you could attach yourself and somehow say, okay, they are really angry because of this and that. Was Friday's attack different from Charlie Hebdo? We are going to bring in our next guest to talk about that, and we will be speaking with KT a little bit about that. So, KT, first and foremost, John Kerry's comments, to be pretty clear, that wasn't coherent, I think, on his part. What is he really saying?
It's such baloney. It's the far-left liberal cant, which is blame the victim, right? That somehow ISIS and radical Islamists are justified in these attacks because, after all, the United States, I mean, I guess they go back to the Crusades and say, well, it must be because of the Crusades. Is always blame the victim. Well, it's not the fault of the Islamic extremists because, after all, they're reacting to maybe our presence in Iraq, maybe they're reacting to Afghanistan, maybe they're reacting, I don't know, to the Palestinian-Israeli situation. It's just the cant that you have to give them an excuse for something. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for violence. There's no excuse for murder. There's no excuse for assassinations or beheadings or crucifixions. Stop. Enough already. It's not our fault.
Not our fault, KT. How do you see the administration? We know that President Obama has said, no, we're not going to put boots on the ground in Syria. I have been advised that would be a mistake. What is your take?
Well, here's the thing, and Deirdre, what he does is the President Obama has this way of saying, well, we don't want to put 100,000 troops there, so therefore we're not going to do anything. And when the president stood up, even after the Paris attacks, and said, look, my plan's working. We're containing ISIS. Everything's great. I'm not going to change a thing. While at the same time, Paris is still burning. You know, I think the world is crying out for American leadership, and it's really only the United States that can step forward. It's not just a military solution. It's an economic solution. It's a diplomatic solution. We should use all of the weapons that we and our allies have to bring to bear. It's cyber weapons. It's social media weapons. It's shutting down the funding sources for ISIS. And you know what? We may, like we had to do in World War II and like we had to do in the Cold War, sometimes we have to hold our nose and deal with allies that we might otherwise disagree with, but who can help us get the job done. And if that means Assad has to stay, if that means we have to work with the Russians, do it.
KT, I love that you brought that up because you and I have been corresponding these past few days about that. And I had a comment here from a French old-timer making that exact connection, saying that, you know what, maybe at the time during World War II, the Allies didn't really want to work with Stalin. That was the only way to get Hitler out, to your point. I want to ask you something more, though, about the French and the Belgian police working together, increasing the raids in Brussels. Some people have said that Belgium is actually the weakest link in this whole fight against terror. Is that true?
Well, whether it's Belgium or the other countries in the region, they all embraced, about 20 years ago, they embraced this notion of multiculturalism. In other words, we can take massive influx of immigrants, and we don't have to, we're going to tolerate their different way of looking at things. They're going to live in their own neighborhoods. They're going to really live their own lives. They're not going to become part and assimilated into Belgian or Dutch or French or German or British society. And it's now been an abject failure. Most of the European leaders have said, look, it hasn't worked. What it's done is create a fostering of resentment in a second generation. Unlike in the United States, where by the second generation, Americans are totally assimilated. They're at the mall, they've got their iPhones, they've got their iPads, they're driving cars. The second generation often in Europe is caught between, and they become then very ripe for recruitment, particularly in areas where there's large unemployment and particularly large second generation Islamic unemployment.
KT, so glad to have you with me. Thank you so much for the time. KT McFarland joining us there.